The morning she tried to take my house, I was sitting on the porch, rocking gently, sipping my black coffee, and watching the autumn leaves fall like memories. My bones ached, but not nearly as much as my heart. You see, a man can endure age, pain, even loneliness. But betrayal? That's a wound that doesn't heal easily. I'm George Whitman, 72 years old, retired carpenter, widower, and, until recently, the proud owner of the old Whitman estate, a house I built with my own 2 hands 50 years ago. Every beam, every nail, every creaking floorboard carries my sweat, my laughter, and my late wife, Margaret's love. But my daughter-in-law, Claire, saw it differently. To her, it was just property. It all started a few months after Margaret passed. My son, David, had married Claire, an ambitious woman with a lawyer's smile and a heart I could never quite read. She was polite at first, all "Dad this" and "Dad that," bringing me tea, checking my medicine. But soon enough, her kindness started to feel rehearsed. One evening, while I was fixing the loose railing on the stairs, I overheard them whispering in the kitchen. "Dad's not getting any younger," Claire said softly. "It's only a matter of time before he can't live here alone." "I know, honey," David replied, "but he's still sharp. We'll have to wait." "Wait," she hissed. "That house is worth nearly $900,000, David. We could sell it, pay off the mortgage, and move closer to the city." I froze. The screwdriver slipped from my fingers and clattered down the steps. They went silent, but I'd heard enough. That night, I couldn't sleep. The wind whistled through the cracks in the window frame, carrying Margaret's voice in my mind. "Protect what we built, George." A week later, Claire showed up with a folder full of papers. "Dad," she began sweetly, "David and I were thinking, why don't you let us help you manage your affairs? You're getting older, and we don't want you worrying about bills and taxes." I smiled politely. "That's thoughtful of you, Claire." She slid the papers toward me. "All you have to do is sign here. It just gives us power of attorney, so we can take care of things if you ever, can't." Her eyes gleamed, confident I'd fall for it. I took the papers, pretending to scan them with my reading glasses. I even nodded, as if convinced. "I'll look them over tonight." That night, instead of reading them, I called my old friend Walter, a retired lawyer who'd helped me draft my will years ago. When he looked at the documents, his voice dropped. "George, if you'd signed this, you'd have transferred the deed to them. You'd lose everything." My hands trembled, not from fear, but from fury. I'd raised my son better than this, or so I thought. The next morning, I played the part of the confused old man. "Claire," I said gently over breakfast, "I looked over those papers. I think it's a good idea." Her face lit up. "Oh, that's wonderful, Dad. I knew you'd see reason. But before I sign anything," I added, stirring my coffee slowly, "why don't you and David take a little vacation? Go to that resort you've been talking about." My treat. Her eyes widened. "Really?" "Of course," I said, smiling. "You two deserve it." She didn't suspect a thing. While they were away for the weekend, I met with Walter and my notary. Together we moved the house into a living trust, legally bulletproof. No one could sell, transfer, or claim ownership without my explicit consent. I also changed my will, leaving the house not to David, but to the local children's shelter where Margaret had volunteered for years. By the time Claire returned, thinking she was about to become the lady of the house, I had already made sure she'd never touch a brick of IA. A few days later, she cornered me in the living room, waving the unsigned papers. "Dad, you still haven't signed these," she snapped, her polite mask finally cracking. "Oh," I said, scratching my chin. "About that, I spoke to my lawyer. Turns out, Everything's already been taken care of. The house is safe." Her face turned pale. "What do you mean safe?" I leaned back in my chair. "I mean, you can stop scheming, Claire. You won't be selling this house. Not now. Not ever." David walked in just then, looking confused. "What's going on?" "Your wife," I said evenly, "wanted to take this house from under me. I've made sure that'll never happen." David's jaw dropped. "Claire, is that true?" She stammered. I was only trying to help." "Help yourself, maybe," I said quietly. "But not me." Things were never the same after that. David avoided me for a while, ashamed, I suppose, but he eventually came around. He realized what Claire had been planning, and the marriage didn't last long after that. She left, angry and empty-handed. And me? I stayed right where I belonged, in my rocking chair, watching the sun set over the porch I built with Margaret. One evening, months later, David showed up with his little boy, Sam. He hugged me tight and said, "Dad, I'm sorry." For everything, I smiled. "You're forgiven, son. Just promise me one thing. Never let greed blind you to what really matters." He nodded, tears in his eyes. Sam ran across the porch, chasing a red ball, his laughter echoing through the house. For the first time in a long while, the old home felt alive again. I looked up at Margaret's portrait on the wall and whispered, "Don't worry, love. The house and the family are safe now." That night, as I rocked gently in my chair, the moonlight spilling through the window, I thought about how close I'd come to losing everything. But sometimes, wisdom and patience are a man's best weapons. They thought they could outsmart an old man. They forgot. I built this house from the ground up, and I knew exactly how to keep it standing.